Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State with Tiny and Katie.
Welcome to Tuesday's edition of Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors, the right choice, voted best of the Tri-State 2024. I'm Katie. This is my best buddy, Tiny. We will be your host for the next 2 hours, in case you weren't sure who we were.
Will we?
Yes.
Wow, you act like we're introducing this for the very first time.
We're going to be your hosts for the next 2 hours. My name is Katie, originally from Reading, Pennsylvania, 39 and single. Thank you.
My name is Tiny, and Katie's single, and I'm not surprised. You can see why.
The weather today, we are looking at sunny skies and a high of 54. I feel like I don't know how to dress when I go to bed because it's going to be warm, but then it drops down to 32, and it's freezing in the middle of the night.
Why is it freezing in the middle of the night? You have heat?
Okay, so I have baseboard heat,
Yeah.
but I'm always afraid of how high it's going to make my electric bill. So I always turn it on low, and then I'll pump it up a little bit before I go to bed, but then I wake up and I'm sweating in the middle of the night.
You know what you need to get is, because we had one of these, we wound up not needing it, and we took it back, but when we had it, it really worked, is our basement, our downstairs, which is the best place in the house, but it always stays very cool, no matter what. So we finally got the furnace and all that, situated to where it takes care of. But prior to that, we bought one of those. If this is the floor, it stood about this high, and it's narrow like that, and it goes back and forth. And it has a thermostat where you set the temperature. So if you want it to be 70 degrees, just like anything else. So something like that, I bet, and they're not very expensive.
I was just going to say, what's the price tag on that?
They're far less than $100.
Oh, okay.
Now, but you just will close your door, because obviously if it can't heat the whole place.
Well, I only need the bedroom.
Right. I think it would be perfect for that.
Well, you know what we should do?
What's that?
Let's put it on my Christmas list, and I'll let you get that for me as a Christmas present.
Gotcha. So that or the fire blanket.
I already bought a fire blanket.
There you go.
I couldn't wait any longer, so I bought my own fire blanket.
Okay.
We're looking at rain tomorrow and a high of 44. Today is December 17th. Happy birthday to my very best friend, Bridget, who is 39 today. It's also National Maple Syrup Day. A couple interesting statistics about maple syrup.
Wait a minute. How can we just gloss over the fact that it's Bridget's birthday? Happy birthday, Bridget.
Yes.
First of all.
Yeah, 39.
Does she ever say that she gets screwed out of Christmas presents?
No, because so my best friend Bridget, we've been best friends since we were 10 years old. So next year will be our 30th year celebrating birthdays. Her birthday is the week before Christmas, but she always has a birthday party, and it's always the weekend or 2 weekends prior to Christmas.
Okay.
So there's enough separation that it is like two separate holidays, but she always has a birthday party.
Well, no, that's true. I get that. What I'm saying, I say it's true like I know, but I understand that. What I'm saying is that, now granted, this is going to sound, I'm just not about presents and all, but just
maybe a little bit.
Think about this for a second. She has it so close. We would never know what people who would otherwise buy her gifts would actually spend if her birthday was not so close to Christmas.
That's a very fair point, because what I did for her, and every year I normally just get her a basket of presents.
Yeah.
And since she's been married, and now since she has a baby, there's something for the baby, there's something for her and Logan, and then there's something for her specifically, and then there's normally like a family gift.
Mm-hmm.
I just took something out and gave it to her for her birthday.
By the way, all of this is for your birthday.
I said, just pick one. The rest you can open on Christmas, because it gets pricey.
Sure it can.
Especially when people do have birthdays so close to Christmas. Like, I'm already dreading January, because of you, my brother, and my niece. All have birthdays within a week's span, and they're all people I normally shop for. So you might get nothing this year.
I need nothing.
I will give you a hug. You say that, but then if I give you something, you then complain about it later.
How did I complain about it?
Like when I gave you creamer. I still hear about the fact that I gave you creamer for Christmas one year.
You hear about that only because of the wonderful story that surrounds it, and we love telling that story, and you had to admit we both love telling that story.
We do, but I do like functional presents. So I would like to, for your birthday, just bring you a pack of gum, that you're always chewing. Wouldn't that be
only
perfect?
complaint about the creamer was that it
wasn't
was
sugar-free.
It was sugar-free, but it was the wrong brand.
Oh, well. Geez.
Just like you, I drink the one from Walmart.
Well,
Walmart
excuse
brand.
me. I
Right?
didn't know we can never, ever drink another kind of creamer.
Once we're comfortable in our home, we do not venture out. Okay,
Who's we?
Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, not me. Don't throw me into that we category.
Well, by comfort in our home, I mean the things that we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that the Walmart brand sugar-free vanilla creamer is the best.
And so, you know what else is really good? What's the main brand of creamer?
Well, there's International Delight and Coffee Mate.
Coffee Mate. That's the one I use. That one's just as good. Aldi has a sugar-free one that's equally as
That
good.
one I do not. I think I love Aldi, but I think that's the worst of all of them. I really do. Did you see the new Home Alone creamer, by the way?
I saw, yes, but I couldn't tell you the flavor of it.
I couldn't either. I did see it, and I read the flavors, and I cannot remember what it was. I just first right away noticed the Home Alone, the yellow letters and the house and the logo.
If you ever needed proof how much packaging sells, there it is. No one knows what the brand, what the flavor is. Just, hey, Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin, boom, it's in my house.
Yeah, the problem is that you get used to it, and you're somewhere, and it's like, hey, you have creamer? Yeah, it's in the fridge. Do you have the Home Alone creamer? No, don't know what that is.
I don't think I would ever ask somebody if they had the Home Alone creamer.
You absolutely
I'm not
would.
that bougie. But let's go back to National Maple Syrup Day.
Okay.
I'm not a big syrup person. If it's not, and I don't mean to sound like a snob, but if it's not 100% organic maple syrup, like from Costco, I'm not really interested in it.
Like I say, from Costco.
That's the best kind.
There are people
it is
who
the
will
best kind.
who will only eat it straight out of the wooden tap.
Yes.
In Vermont.
I don't like any of the other brands that they add different things to it. The sugar-free, it's got to be that all natural maple syrup. And for me in particular, I like the one from Costco.
I don't think I've ever had legitimate pure
Oh my
maple
gosh.
syrup.
Oh my gosh, Tiny. Game changer. It
Bring
really,
some in if you have it.
well, I don't. It's very expensive.
Oh, I know.
Like a thing of it's like $15 to $20. You think I have that kind of money floating
Well,
around?
I mean, look, I've always, you said, that apparently you never have pancakes and waffles because you said
No.
it has to be this.
Yes,
if I'm having syrup.
I'm not a big pancake person, but some things I thought were interesting about maple syrup. There's about 40 gallons of maple sap that are required to produce just 1 gallon of maple syrup.
No wonder it's so expensive.
That's crazy. According to the New York Times, Canada is responsible for roughly 70% of the world's total supply of maple syrup. 70.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2012, 6 million pounds of maple syrup were stolen from a syrup stockpile held by the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers. While authorities managed to track down dozens of people responsible for the theft, about 1/3 of their take is still to be recovered.
We bring you all this news bulletin for this very sticky situation involving the theft of maple syrup. The perpetrators are likely to have stacks of pancakes and waffles near their presence. If you have any information regarding this, please call 1-800-SAVE-THE-MAPLE. Thank you.
There will be signs if somebody stole millions of pounds of syrup.
Yes, if someone's buying 1 million pounds of butter and 1 million pounds of Bisquick,
let us know. You better believe there's something going on there. Today is also Wright Brothers Day because it was on this day that the Wright brothers took their very first flight on their airplane, where Orville piloted the Flyer 1 airplane on a 12-second flight over Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. A few things I thought were interesting about that. Did they get rich from this, you might be wondering. They were from very humble beginnings, and then the Wright brothers, all the success led to contracts in both Europe and the United States, and they soon became wealthy business owners. They began building a grand family home in Dayton, where they spent much of their childhood. They also had a little bit of help. Taylor, a mechanic who worked in the Dayton, Ohio area, bicycle shop owned by Orville and Wilbur Wright, is credited with building the lightweight engine that powered the craft that took flight at Kitty Hawk on December 17th. Thought that was interesting.
Love that.
You know, I only know about this because Bridget is obsessed with the Wright brothers because they flew their first plane on her birthday.
Oh, okay.
So she had hamsters and mice as pets growing up, and everyone was named Orville. Everyone.
No Wilbur?
No Wilbur. Everyone was Orville. And then she had a fish, and it was also named Orville.
Huh.
It was always, and not Wilbur.
What does she have against Wilbur?
I don't know.
Was Orville the shining? Does she have? Is it kind of like the Jonas Brothers and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys? You know, you had your pick.
Maybe.
So, like, was Orville the hot one?
I don't know what they look like. I'll have to
Okay.
Google and I'll have to ask that because they were all named Orville, and then there was a Huxley randomly in there.
Like from Aldous Huxley,
I
the author.
I don't know. These are good questions.
We got to get her on the horn and find out.
We're gonna have to really do some research and dig in and find
Get her to
out.
buy us some maple syrup, make us some pancakes, and we'll talk about it.
What a very random list of topics
Yeah.
we've covered. I think it's time to listen to the good word of the day.
Hi, this is Tim Beitzel. I'm the lead pastor at First Assembly of God in Shippensburg, PA. You can visit us online at www.agshp.org. Today I want to come again out of the book of Matthew in chapter 8 for our devotional for the day. This is familiar to many, even if you did not grow up in church, about how Jesus calmed the storm, that Jesus was master even over the weather. And we start in verse 23. Then Jesus got into the boat and started across the lake with his disciples. Suddenly a fierce storm struck the lake with waves breaking into the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up, shouting, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." Jesus responded, "Why are you afraid? You have so little faith." Then he got up and rebuked the wind and waves, and suddenly there was a great calm. The disciples were amazed. "Who is this man?" they asked. "Even the winds and waves obey him." I don't know what you might be facing today, but let this message from the Word of God encourage you that in Christ there is hope to overcome any obstacle you may be facing. The same Jesus that was able to calm the storm just by a word from his mouth is able to calm the storm in your life. Nothing is beyond the reach of God, and most people will indeed say God can do anything. I'm going to tell you something. When you have Jesus, when you are living your life for him, not only can God do anything, he will. Let me pray with you today. Father God, I pray for that one that's going through deep water today. I pray for that one who's caught up in a storm of life. Lord, I pray that by faith they will simply come to you, not telling you how to do things, not supposing how you're going to do it, but just saying to you, "Lord, peace be still. Calm the storm in my life. Carry me through the storm. Show yourself real to me today." Lord, I pray as they are praying this and reaching out to you that you will meet them right at the point of their need and show them in their heart that you are overcoming the storms in their life. Thank you, Jesus, in whose name we pray. Amen. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
News is all powered by WellSpan, winner of the American Hospital Association's Quest for Quality Award, online at wellspan.org. Tasha Shiflett, Washington County Permits Technician, has been named State Permit Technician of the Year by the Maryland Building Officials Association, county officials announced. The award was presented on Thursday, December 12th, in acknowledgement of her contributions to the permitting profession, they noted. This was something I didn't even know was a thing, the Permit Technician of the Year. So congratulations to Tasha Shiflett.
I can imagine that her job cannot be easy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I know that when it comes to permits, you either have people who refuse to get them,
Mm-hmm.
people who forget to apply for them and say, "I need it and I need it now," not realizing that there's probably 30, 60 days that
there's
need
some
to
kind of
wait.
waiting period.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure she has earned that in spades. I
Sure.
would guarantee that. Volunteers from the Cumberland Valley Business Alliance recently delivered care packages to 35 first responder stations throughout Franklin County as part of the 10th annual First Responders Appreciation Day. The care packages included snacks and beverages, supplies, gift cards, and more that were donated by area businesses to thank local first responders for their service.
And just something small that we can do for our
Yeah.
first responders,
Love
because
that.
we do really appreciate them. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Cumberland Valley Business Alliance. I'm sure they really appreciated that.
And we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at sports with Andy.
Last night in Washington County sports, we saw girls basketball take center stage as Frederick went up against South Hagerstown, getting the win 57-43 for Frederick High School. Coming up tonight in girls basketball, Broadfording travels to Calvary. That tip-off is early. It's at 4:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. tip-off for North Hagerstown and South Hagerstown. Martinsburg travels to St. James for a 6:30 p.m. tip-off. Boonesboro goes to Clear Spring for a 7 p.m. tip-off. Also tipping off at 7 p.m. in girls basketball is Catoctin at Smithsburg and Brunswick at Williamsport. Grace Academy and Cumberland Valley Christian will also tip off at 7 o'clock. Last night, Urbana took down South Hagerstown in Washington County sports wrestling. Urbana won 61-12. Coming up on Wednesday, St. James is at St. Francis and Mount Carmel and Archbishop Curley at 4:30 p.m. Williamsport travels to Boonesboro at 6 p.m. Seneca Valley's at North Hagerstown at 6 p.m. and Catoctin is in Smithsburg. Those matches start at 6 p.m. In Franklin County sports, Greencastle Antrim boys basketball got a win over Waynesboro last night, 58-39. The Blue Devils produced their best effort of the season Monday night at home, and they dealt the rival Indians a men-pen colonial defeat. Waynesboro was 3-2, 2-1 in the MPC now. They managed only one three-pointer and was only 8 for 17 at the foul line during the game. Meanwhile, the Blue Devils made 7 threes and drained 15 of 18 at the foul line. In girls basketball, the Blue Devils also got a win. Greencastle Antrim beat Waynesboro 55-34. The Blue Devils jumped out to a big first quarter lead and defeated the Maidens to snap a 2-game losing streak in a mid-pen colonial game on the road Monday night. Kirsten Swain tallied 14 points on only 5 shots to lead the Blue Devils, who are now 3-4 and 1-2 in the MPC. And Meadow Gambarkurta had 13 points. The duo each hit a trio of 3-pointers in the game.
If you'd like to be featured on the Coach's Corner with Andy, email coach at 921thegoat.com. Local and live. Covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State. Powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice. Voted best of the Tri-State 2024. Online at homerightwaynesboro.com.
Let's talk Tri-State.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors, the right choice, winner in the 2024 Best of the Tri-State. Our next guest today, we have Ashley Sizemore from CASA Inc., and you are the Director of Advocacy Services. Yes. First of all, thanks so much for spending some time with us today on Let's Talk Tri-State. Now, I know a little bit personally about CASA because Verstanding Media has worked with CASA for years, but for anybody who isn't familiar, walk us through what is CASA and the mission.
Yes, and thank you for letting us come on.
Sure.
So CASA Inc. serves survivors of domestic and sexual violence in Washington County. We serve all gender identities. We also serve various ages, so we provide services for children. We provide prevention services in Washington County Public Schools. We provide services for teen dating violence. And we also provide services for elderly and throughout the entire rate.
When you say services, what are some programs that you offer?
So we at CASA Inc., we have a 24-hour hotline. So we are able to help and connect you directly with an advocate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through holidays, weekends. You can call in and get directly connected. Mm-hmm. After, we can help you just to kind of make sure you're safe in that moment. And if you might need to get somewhere safer, we do have a temporary emergency shelter, so we could look at doing that. We also offer legal advocacy. We can assist with getting protective orders. We have support services for those who are experiencing intimate partner violence or experiencing sexual assault. We also have support services to work on safety planning, provide some emotional support. We have a pets program, so if someone does need to flee and they don't want to leave their pets behind, we can try to assist with getting them into a hotel, helping with transportation as well of the pet. And we also have financial empowerment. So financial abuse is the most common type of domestic violence. So we work through the All-State Moving Ahead curriculum, and we're able to help with financial safety planning, and we can help them look to rebuild their finances, their credit after they've left an abusive relationship. We also, those are kind of our victim services. Mm-hmm. And we do, sorry.
No, you're fine. And when you're finished, I want to go back to the pets and talk about that for a second.
Because we do also provide abuse intervention programming. And so that is groups done for those who are identified as the abusive partner as well. So we have that as well.
So it's really all encompassing.
Yes.
Wow. And I'm assuming it's open to men, women, ages, kind of anybody who finds himself in a situation.
Yes, so we do. We serve all ages, all gender identities. There's no discrimination, and everyone can get all of our services. Emergency shelter, it is not just for women and children, but we can provide safe shelter for anyone who may need it in the moment.
I do want to circle back to the pets, because I can imagine if you find yourself in a situation where you quickly have to leave, that's one thing that you just can't leave behind. Your kids and your pets. That's a part of who you are. And so I didn't even think about that. That didn't even cross my mind. If someone is in a situation where they need to flee, they need to get somewhere safe, what do they do with their animals? Is that something that you guys have always provided since CASA has started, or is that a newer thing?
The PETS program specifically is new.
Okay.
So we're about in the first year. It is working, with some outside grants and working with, there is I'm blanking on the name of the other program. But we do work through the State Domestic Violence Agency, and there's a couple different shelters throughout Maryland that are now taking part in this. So typically it is really common that someone might stay in an abusive relationship if they can't leave with their pets.
I can imagine that to be the case. Wow.
So we are really, really lucky to be able to have the funding that if maybe the pet needs to go stay with them in the safe place we're putting them, we can do that. So that is extremely helpful. And unfortunately, if a pet may be harmed within the confines of an abusive relationship, maybe we can help with vet care and those kind of things, or basic needs.
So you guys really go a lot deeper than what I knew. So that's really amazing. How are you guys funded?
We're funded through grants.
Okay.
So state, federal, and we also, for example, the financial empowerment, the PETS programming, those are grants going through other agencies like Allstate that provide these funds to get this programming in. We also have medical advocacy. So I like to share that because if someone does go to the emergency department here at Meritus, CASA always sends out an advocate to be there to support them through the time. If they're going due to domestic violence injuries or sexual assault and maybe they need to go get some exams done, we do have an advocate that will be there. And we work very closely with the forensic nurse department there. So for those who may be nervous about going, it could be helpful to know that there are people there that are going to support them and that are, specialize in these types of services.
And you may have answered this already, but do you focus on any kind of counseling for somebody that's coming out of maybe an abusive relationship?
Yes, so those are called our support services. So we do not offer mental health therapy, but what we do offer is sessions to sit with an advocate. And it's really helpful because it is an hour scheduled time that someone can get to really sit and talk with our advocates. So we can do safety planning. Let's make sure that you're safe in the moment. If we need to find a way slowly to get you somewhere safe, they can work all of that out. They can also provide that emotional support and talking through some of the trauma that these survivors have experienced.
Sure.
And we offer that for both the domestic violence and sexual assault as well.
Okay. Do you ever receive calls where somebody suspects that a friend of theirs or a family member is in, or even knows that they're in a situation that is dangerous, but they will not call on their behalf?
Yes.
And then how do you handle those situations?
If you do have concerns about a family member or friend, you're welcome to call the hotline. We can help, we can talk to you, try to see if there's a way for that person to call in. The services we offer are client focused and they are non-judgmental. So whether someone is leaving in a relationship or plans to stay in the relationship, we offer the same services. And the focus is we want you to be the safest possible. But the client is supported by us to make the best decision they feel possible. So the client does have to be ready to talk to us, but if they're not, we can offer significant other services.
Okay.
So if it is a family member, we can set them up with our support services as well and talk that through a little bit about how you can deal with that and maybe try to help do a little bit of safety planning, being a family member or a friend of someone who's not ready for that service yet.
Do you have any kind of statistics as to how many people are affected in maybe Washington County in particular?
So what I can tell you is that in 2023, we served around 700 survivors.
Ooh. Is that a big, it sounds big to me. Is that a large number?
Yes, and there's definitely been an increase just in general nationwide since COVID. Our shelter has been full. I've spoken with other shelters throughout the nation, and they're just seeing an increase in demand for the services. So it is rising as far as the need. But that includes both the intimate partner violence and sexual assault. We also serve sex trafficking victims. So that 700 encompasses anyone who may have called for the hotline, and then if they would have received any other services.
That's scary. That's scary to think about. That number just seems so high.
Yes.
For our local community here. And thankfully we have Casa Inc. here. Is there a Casa location in multiple areas?
We have a main office location. So we are currently moving, but when we reopen, we will be at 1 West Franklin Street. And so that is where people can come in and walk in, and we can help them. The other locations are confidential, of course, for safety.
And those are those the shelters as well? Okay.
Yes.
And just out of curiosity, Ashley, how did you end up linking up with Casa Inc.? What's your background?
Well, my background is I have degrees in psychology and early childhood education.
Okay.
So I actually began working at a shelter in Pennsylvania, running the children's program. And I noticed I just have a passion for the work. And I was lucky when I moved into Hagerstown to find a place at Casa. And it's really an exciting place because we do expand our services and our programming continuously. So we're really excited this year as well with the youth prevention programming, and that's brand new in Washington County Public Schools that we're going to be putting into place. So I had started in education and just ended up here.
I'm glad that you did. I can imagine that when somebody is going through one of these situations that you have discussed, you're at your lowest point. I mean, you really are hopeless and helpless, and you don't know where to turn, and you don't know what to do, and you kind of feel like there's no way out. But there is a way out, and you are supported, and Casa Inc. just does such wonderful work. And so I'm glad that you were able to talk to us about it, because I don't know if everybody knows that it's available and what it is. What does Casa stand for?
So CASA stands for Citizens Assisting and Sheltering the Abused.
Okay.
And we go by Casa Inc., and so that'll help you to make sure you find us. And then you can also find every single service we offer. It's on www.casainc.org. So if there's a little bit more questions about how we can help, it's on there as well. But I will say it is a big step to make that call into the hotline. And that's why it's important that we have 24-hour staffing so someone can talk to you right away. And it's also confidential. If you don't want to give your name, you don't have to. We will talk to you either way.
What is the phone? What is the hotline?
It is 301-739-8975.
Okay. And you have some fundraising efforts coming up. You said in March there was something big coming up.
Yes. So this is our second annual gala fundraiser, and this is a time to get a little bit dressed up and fancy. We have good food, some entertainment that goes on, and this year that will be the first Saturday in March. Our theme is going to be black, white, and crystal clear, and that's looking at the idea that when it comes to domestic and sexual violence, our stance is crystal clear that it is just not acceptable in any form. So it was a really, really fun event last year, and there'll be more information coming out in January. If you do visit that website and go to the top at Donate Now, you'll find all our events that are upcoming.
Okay.
We also yearly have a golf event, and we had our second annual cornhole event this past fall. And so that's really fun as well. And those will all be coming up in the next year.
Okay. What do you, in the last minute or so that we have here, Ashley, what would you say to that person who is in a situation and they're feeling hopeless? They don't know where to turn. They're thinking about making that call, but every time they pick up the phone, they just put it down. What do you say to that person?
I would say to them, if you can find a time that's safe and you feel ready to call the hotline, our advocates are there. All it takes is that one call, and then we will make sure that we can get you the best services and help possible. So finding time to make that one call, we're going to offer you non-judgmental and supportive services that someone's going to be there for you when you're ready to make that call.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about Casa Inc. And the website is
www.casainc.org.
awesome. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
We'll be right back on Let's Talk Tri-State.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.
News is all powered by the DRB Group, the right partner for your real estate development. Franklin County Commissioners have awarded $261,000 in grants to support projects and initiatives to combat the ongoing opioid epidemic. Funding for these grants come from Franklin County's allotment of nationwide settlements with drug manufacturers and distributors, according to county commissioners. So $261,000 in grants, put to good use.
And sadly, probably,
Not
and
enough.
I'm not downing it at all. Anything toward it is great, but it probably won't even scratch the surface.
It's probably not enough, but it is still a very large number, and it's all going towards something that's going to help our community.
That's right. Well, from Franklin County, we move south to Washington County. The Washington County Sheriff's Office is investigating a hit and run after a Hagerstown man was found dead Friday evening north of the city. The deceased has been identified as John Andres Cruz, 37, of Hagerstown, according to the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office also has identified the involved vehicle and the driver, but we're not releasing further information pending the investigation. Deputies responded to the area of Pennsylvania Avenue between Moggins Avenue and North Point Drive around 8:12 on Friday evening for a pedestrian struck by a vehicle. Deputies found Cruz dead in the roadway. The vehicle that struck him had left the area, the release is stated. The road was closed for about 2.5 hours while the crash reconstruction team investigated the scene.
This is never, ever a good story.
There's no way you didn't know you hit somebody.
Yeah, but to just drive away from it.
And I understand the fear that comes over you. I think for me more so, if I was the family of the deceased, obviously horrendously sad, the fact that someone left, forget about the legal aspect, but the fact that person
the moral aspect,
breathed their last breath completely alone, more than likely.
I know.
Just left for dead, literally in the middle of the road. That to me is, obviously that they're gone is the most heartbreaking thing, but just that, I would not be able to get that visual out of it.
Yeah, and also so close to Christmas. It's just
never a good time.
Heartbreaking story. Let's go ahead and check in with sports with Andy.
Last night in the NBA, the Philadelphia 76ers got a win over the Charlotte Hornets, 121-108. Leading scorer for the 76ers was Paul George with 33 points and 8 assists. The Detroit Pistons beat the Miami Heat 125-124. Jimmy Butler leading the Miami Heat in scoring with 35 points as well as in rebounds with 19 and recording 10 assists, getting himself a triple-double on the night. Also recording a triple-double for the Pistons was Cade Cunningham, 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 18 assists on the game. The Chicago Bulls beat the Toronto Raptors 122-121 in a close one. Nikola Vucevic had 24 points for the Bulls, leading the scoring. And leading the scoring for the Raptors was R.J. Barrett with 32 points, adding 9 assists as well. The Cleveland Cavaliers got a win over the Brooklyn Nets 130-101. Evan Mobley led the scoring for the Cavs with 21 points. The Denver Nuggets notched a win over the Sacramento Kings 130-129. Nikola Jokic had 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 13 assists, getting himself a triple-double, while Domantas Sabonis recorded 28 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists, falling 4 assists shy of a triple-double on the night for him. The Los Angeles Clippers got a statement win over the Utah Jazz as well for the final game of the evening, 144-107. Leading the scoring for the Clippers was James Harden with 41 points. Last night in the NHL, we saw the Capitals take on the Dallas Stars. The Capitals fell to the Dallas Stars 3-1. Leading the scoring for Dallas was Hintz with 2 goals. He also had 2 assists on the night, and Ottinger had 25 saves for the Stars on the game. The Panthers beat the Oilers 6-5 last night as well in NHL action. Leading scorer for the Panthers with 1 goal was Reinhart, also adding an assist on the game for himself. And the Canucks beat the Avalanche 3-1. Leading the scoring for the Canucks was Sherwood with 3 goals and adding 3 assists on the game. Demko had 30 saves for the Canucks on the night. We were treated to 2 Monday Night Football games last night. The first one up was the Bears taking on the Vikings in Minnesota. Minnesota got the win over the Chicago Bears 30-12, improving their record to 12-2 on the season. Sam Darnold went 24 of 40 with 231 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Aaron Jones rushed 18 times for 86 yards and a score. And leading receiver was Justin Jefferson with 73 yards on 7 receptions for 1 touchdown. For the Bears, Caleb Williams went 18 of 31 for 191 yards and a touchdown. And DeAndre Swift rushed 19 times for 79 yards, while Keenan Allen brought in 6 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown for the Bears. The next Monday night game that was also running around the same time as the Bears-Vikings game was the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Falcons got the win, improving their season to 7-7 as the Raiders fell to 2-12 on the season. The Falcons won 15-9 as Kirk Cousins struggled in this game, only completing 11 passes on only 17 attempts, 112 yards on the game, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Bijan Robinson, on the other hand, had a stellar game, 22 carries with 125 yards, but no scores. Drake London led the receiving corps with 3 receptions and 53 yards with a touchdown. For the Las Vegas Raiders, Desmond Ridder got the start for the Raiders, 23 of 39, with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, throwing for 208 yards. Desmond Ridder also rushed 5 times for 28 yards and was the leading rusher for the Raiders last night. Jacoby Myers led the receiving corps with 5 receptions, 59 yards, and no touchdowns. Amir Abdullah had the lone touchdown reception for the Raiders last night, with also recording 7 catches for 58 yards.
If you'd like to be featured on the Coach's Corner with Andy, email coach at 921thegoat.com. Local and live. Covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State. Powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice. Voted best of the Tri-State 2024. Online at homerightwaynesboro.com.
Let's talk Tri-State.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice 2024 winner and best of the Tri-State.
From SPO, or Shippensburg Produce and Outreach.
What just happened here, SPO?
So we're here with Chris and Jody from Shippensburg Produce and Outreach. And you'll notice on their shirts, it says SPO.
Okay.
And Christopher called it SPO.
Oh, very good.
Isn't that a great,
I love it. Yeah.
easy nickname? So,
I thought maybe Katie was just taking it upon herself to rename you.
Well, it would be a good pick. So.
Yeah.
That's probably where I would have gone
Yeah.
as well. So tell us about SPO. What is the Shippensburg Produce and Outreach?
Well, first, we appreciate you having us here to be able to tell SPO's story. SPO was founded in 2008 by a group of volunteers who wanted to give back to the community. They chose the mission of food, and for the last 16 years, they've been helping out those in need in the Shippensburg area. Like most organizations, they started small. They joined up with an already established food pantry in the area, focusing on produce and focusing on building nutritious meals for families that need a little help. That demand over time has really grown, especially during the pandemic and after. Where other food pantries have maybe struggled, SPO thrived, largely due to the volunteers that they have, and guided by Ms. Karen DeShong, who's the president of SPO. So what SPO has been able to do is meet the need, be a key member of the community for the last 16 years. But with those goals and objectives have come some challenges. So the demand has increased pretty substantially, and they faced about a year ago sort of an inflection point where they had to do some analysis of the organization and really dig down and identify critical functions and how they could improve how they reach out to the community. And that's sort of where we fortunately joined them. I retired from the U.S. Army last year, about a year ago.
Service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jody retired from the Coast Guard in June.
Oh my goodness!
Thank you, Jody.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we came across them as part of a skill bridge internship that the Army offers all service members. I really wanted to focus on food insecurity. I grew up in a food insecure household in Virginia, where I'm from, and I always wanted to find a way to give back. SPO became that vehicle for me and for us to be part of the community and to give back. So for the last almost year and a half, we've been helping them out, taking them to the next level, refining their processes, and helping them drive on with the mission that they have created, which is to be of service to the community of Shippensburg.
What is the next level?
Well, so we call it SPO 2.0.
Yeah,
so we
tell
think
me
that's a
about
good
SPO 2.0.
Well, you just love that, don't you? Yeah.
So like Chris said, I mean, they've been doing this for 16 years, so clearly they're doing something right. Their mission is valid, valued, super important to the community. They're the largest food pantry serving within Shippensburg. They're also, we think, the largest all-volunteer food pantry in central Pennsylvania. So it is all volunteer. There's no paid staff. So the volunteers, Chris likes to say, are the biggest asset that SPO has. People think that for food pantries, the most important thing is money and donations, which is absolutely super important, and we encourage folks to donate where they can, what they can. But the volunteers are really what makes SPO what they are.
Makes SPO go.
Makes SPO. I like it.
And grow.
And grow.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But what we've been doing over the past 6 months, and it will be a year come June, is, like Chris said, refining the processes and making things sort of repeatable, documenting processes, making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so that SPO has a sustainable path going forward. They've done great things for 16 years, and we want to make sure that they're in a position to do great things for 16 years beyond. But I mean, the volunteers are really where it's at. We've just kind of been laying a little bit of foundation work and, like I said, making sure that the processes, the good things that they've been doing are the most efficient way of doing things, the safest way of doing things, and so that they can carry forward.
Let me ask you about this. Your name says Shippensburg. Mm-hmm. Is that the service area, or does it go outside Shippensburg at all?
It's the service area. So we will provide food to anybody who needs it. If somebody from Gettysburg comes up to SPO and needs food assistance, we will give that person food that day. We are restricted to that service area. So in this example, for somebody from Gettysburg, we will direct them to other Adams County assistance facilities there. But we will give food to those who need it. Our clients are either residents of the Shippensburg area or they are employed in the Shippensburg area. So that is how we are able to sort of define our service area.
Do you have a rough number of households, or I don't know how you break that down, but just to kind of put it into perspective for our viewers?
Right.
I'll give you the round numbers, and then Chris can talk about more of the particulars. So what I like to say is we serve about 400 households every week, which equates to about feeding about 4,000 people every month, which is approximately 400,000 meals a year. So it's 400 a week, about 4,000 people a month, and 400,000 meals a year. So it seems like, you think Shippensburg's kind of a small area. When you look at those numbers, the need is real. It's great. It's not getting smaller. It's getting larger since we've started last year. It's grown, I'll say approximately 50, maybe 100 households. It's increased that much just in the past year. And that's, like after the pandemic. So the pandemic certainly was, a demand on all food pantries, I'm sure, and charitable organizations across the board. But even now after the pandemic, the need has not gone away, and it's increased.
Right. If you imagine 16 years ago when SPO started, they were helping about 25 families a week. So from that jump of 25 to over 400, we helped families on Thanksgiving, and we had the largest single day distribution in SPO's history, and it was about 500 families came through. So with that increase of clients also comes an increase in cost. So all the food that goes out is purchased by SPO from a critical partner that we have, which is the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. They service the 27 counties here in Central Pennsylvania. So our food budget is about $200,000 a year, which has grown orders of magnitude the last few years. So being really disciplined with our procurement processes, our inventory, how we manage volunteers' time is really critical, because unfortunately the need for food assistance is not going away. So we need to be postured to continue to support that need and making sure that our foundation is strong so we can be of service.
If somebody needed to come to SPO and needed to get some food from there, is it like a packaged week-long groceries, or how does that work?
It's sort of grocery style. So I do the numbers. I do all the counting and all that kind of nerd spreadsheet stuff.
You have the clipboards.
I am the clipboard. I love it. I brought my notepad anyway. So it's grocery style. So someone that would come, if they're not already registered, they would fill out some paperwork. Really pretty basic. It's required by the state in order, and that helps us keep track of funding. Like Chris said, we do have to purchase the food largely through Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. So the food isn't free that we're giving out. We buy most of it. The groceries, I like to think there's a grocery bag of produce. It's a grocery bag of what we call dry goods, so like dried noodles or sometimes canned goods. And then there's a grocery bag of cold goods, usually like the meat, eggs, milk, that kind of thing. And so those 3 bags of groceries go out the door. It's intended to supplement a family of 4 for a week. It wouldn't meet a full grocery supply for a family of 4 for a week, but it certainly would take the edge off of, I eat cereal every morning. I know I go through a box of cereal every week, so we try to give out a box of cereal. That's not going to last a family of 4 for a week, but it helps. It helps, right. And I know things like that. Groceries just across the board aren't cheap anymore. I know how much we spend when we go to the store to get groceries. So, but those 3 bags of groceries, I think if I were to go to the store and buy that type of food, would run somewhere above $60 worth of groceries.
And even the staples now, milk, eggs,
exactly,
bread,
they're
so expensive.
They are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it does take the edge off. Like I said, those 3 bags of groceries is over $60 worth of groceries, but we're able to get that amount of groceries through Central Pennsylvania Food Bank for a vastly reduced price. So the groceries that we're putting out, those 3 bags, cost us around $10 to $15 per family a week, and we spend around $15,000 a month on the food that we're putting out the door for the families. So it does add up to us, but at the same time, because of the economies that we're able to get and through the food bank, we're able to make the donations that folks give, the corporations, local companies donate. We're able to make that go a lot further than folks kind of can do on their own. Like I said, $15 for us will feed a family of 4 for a week. So, folks that are able to donate $20, that goes a really long way to feeding a family of 4 people for a week. So
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say, well, think about this. If you donate $100, that could supplement, 7 families 1 week, or 1 family for 7 weeks.
Right.
You could help them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And imagine what you can get for $100 at the grocery store. Not much.
No.
As a matter of fact, Jody, your estimate of $60 may have been low.
I think it is.
But you do know what you guys pay the Central PA Food Bank.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, and especially in this day and age with how expensive things are. First of all, it's wonderful that you can get that for that price. Yeah. And the fact that someone can just, even $50, whatever you can donate, like you said, $20 will go a long way. And that's what, 3 trips to Starbucks?
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe you don't have 3 lattes, or maybe a latte a week you don't have.
Right.
And then, donate it. I'm assuming 501c3 completely.
Yes. 501c3 since
get your taxes taken
2014.
care of.
Yep, absolutely.
And I can imagine with that amount of food that's coming in, the volunteers are so important to do all the packaging. And do you have like a packaging day, or is it every day you're putting things together?
On Mondays, so before we came here today, we were with a team to prepare for the following week, and we're taking 2 weeks off for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. But we are planning for the beginning of next year. So on Monday, we receive a delivery from Brian Campbell, which is our primary produce supplier. On Tuesdays, it's all day. So we essentially have 2 shifts for our volunteers. 10 to 1 o'clock is when we do our bagging. We have a lunch provided to all volunteers at 1:30. And then 3 to 6 is when we do distribution. We do also have volunteers who come there at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and stay until 6 o'clock. But most of the work happens on Tuesday, and then there's some administrative work that we do on Monday mornings.
Now, when it comes to your volunteers, I know you've mentioned it's all volunteer, and it sounds like you're very busy. But is this your? I mean, are you guys? This is basically your full-time job. I mean, I know it's volunteer, but this is what you do.
So sort of, yeah. So we actually started our consulting company. That's how we're helping SPO. It's sort of a full-time job for us right now because we're kind of in the midst of getting that foundation built for SPO. It is definitely demanding on the time, making connections and just documenting. I do a lot of grant writing, which is time consuming, but certainly well worth it and needed.
Not easy work.
And not easy work. But I think, I mean, the volunteers that come on Tuesday, it's a full day. We have volunteers that have all kinds of abilities. We have older folks that come in that maybe aren't super mobile, but there's work for them to do. We have, for our Thanksgiving distribution, we had students come in from Shippensburg University. The cheerleading team came in and they were on the later shift where we're actually putting groceries in people's cars. So folks that are looking for, I call it your do-good workout in the sense of, people that want to work out and that takes time out of the day. Well, you can come to SPO, you can push a grocery cart for 3 hours and put groceries in. And I guarantee you will get your steps in for the day.
You'll get your curls in.
You get absolutely. You will. It is. I mean, it's it's you're moving for 2.5 hours, and it's a great. You're doing good at the same time. So it's definitely time well spent.
I don't know if you heard this or not, but they came from Carlisle. You live in Carlisle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a commute
Yeah.
for you guys to get down there to ship it. What is that? Half hour?
Half hour.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's.
Up through 11, it's real pretty.
Yeah, he likes the farm country. I think is a great part of Central Pennsylvania,
Oh, yes.
and we really enjoy it. And he's from rural Virginia, so a little touch of home. But I grew up in Carlisle, so we had moved back there after our last assignment in DC when we both retired.
I'm sure you made accommodations, or you make accommodations for this in your weekly orders or whenever you do your procurement orders. But has it come close to where you've been like, we just made it by, or how does that? And the reason I ask is obvious because it can go to show the urgency or how tight it does get from time to time.
We have had a few moments here and there, a couple moments this last year in 2024 from a spending money side where we've had to make some pretty critical decisions. From an inventory standpoint, we have really focused on making sure that we are able to provide food for at least 4 weeks. So that is a standard distribution per family for 4 weeks. But we have had to really prioritize our spending. We've really tried to prioritize how we are doing our operations from week to week. That said, we are very fortunate to be postured going into 2025 with a little bit more robust system as a whole organization. We've been very fortunate to get some grants that are going to allow us to bring SPO to a more professional level with technology, with technical hardware that's going to streamline a lot of how we do business. So to your question, being able to forecast not only our spending but also our on-hand inventory has been critical, and we've gotten to a really, really strong point this year.
I'll also say sometimes right at the very end, I run the produce table and we're packing produce, and sometimes if we get more families in that we weren't expecting that week for whatever reason, whether it's seasonal, economy, who knows, things take a turn. Every once in a while we do run low, and so having the funds and the inventory and keeping track of it, but having the ability to have a little bit of a fallback is definitely important because, like Chris said, on Thanksgiving we had 500 families, which is a number more than we had planned on having that we normally have throughout a regular week, and so the need is real. People need the food, and there is nothing wrong with asking for help. Right. But we ask for help from our neighbors too to help us run so that we can give back to the folks who need it.
So how can our viewers, as we wrap up here, how can our viewers and listeners help you and support you?
Please come to SPO. We're at 130 South Penn Street in Shippensburg. Come on Tuesdays. Again, our 2 shifts are 10 to 1 o'clock and then 3 to 6. Or come at any time throughout that day. You can visit our website, www.shipout.org, or send us an email at info@shipout.org.
Great. Well, Chris and Jody, thank you so much for spending some time with us today on Let's
Thanks
Talk
for
Tri-State.
having us.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah.
We'll be right back on Let's Talk Tri-State.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.
News is all powered by WellSpan, winner of the American Hospital Association's Quest for Quality Award, online at wellspan.org. Tasha Shiflett, Washington County Permits Technician, has been named State Permit Technician of the Year by the Maryland Building Officials Association, county officials announced. The award was presented on Thursday, December 12th, in acknowledgement of her contributions to the permitting profession, they noted. This was something I didn't even know was a thing, the Permit Technician of the Year. So congratulations to Tasha Shiflett.
I can imagine that her job cannot be easy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I know that when it comes to permits, you either have people who refuse to get them, people who forget
Well-
to apply for them and say, I need it and I need it now, not realizing that there's probably 30, 60 days that
There's
need
some
to
kind of
wait.
waiting period,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I'm sure she has earned that in spades. I
Sure.
will guarantee that. Volunteers from the Cumberland Valley Business Alliance recently delivered care packages to 35 first responder stations throughout Franklin County as part of the 10th annual First Responders Appreciation Day. The care packages included snacks and beverages, supplies, gift cards, and more that were donated by area businesses to thank local first responders for their service.
And just something small that we can do for our
Yeah.
first responders,
Love
because
that.
we do really appreciate them. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Cumberland Valley Business Alliance. I'm sure they really appreciated that.
And we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at sports with Andy.
Last night in Washington County sports, we saw girls basketball take center stage as Frederick went up against South Hagerstown, getting the win 57-43 for Frederick High School. Coming up tonight in girls basketball, Broadfording travels to Calvary. That tip-off is early. It's at 4:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. tip-off for North Hagerstown and South Hagerstown. Martinsburg travels to St. James for a 6:30 p.m. tip-off. Boonesboro goes to Clear Spring for a 7 p.m. tip-off. Also tipping off at 7 p.m. in girls basketball is Catoctin at Smithsburg and Brunswick at Williamsport. Grace Academy and Cumberland Valley Christian will also tip off at 7 o'clock. Last night, Urbana took down South Hagerstown in Washington County sports wrestling. Urbana won 61-12. Coming up on Wednesday, St. James is at St. Francis and Mount Carmel and Archbishop Curley at 4:30 p.m. Williamsport travels to Boonesboro at 6 p.m. Seneca Valley's at North Hagerstown at 6 p.m. and Catoctin is in Smithsburg. Those matches start at 6 p.m. In Franklin County sports, Greencastle Antrim boys basketball got a win over Waynesboro last night, 58-39. The Blue Devils produced their best effort of the season Monday night at home, and they dealt the rival Indians a men-pen colonial defeat. Waynesboro was 3-2, 2-1 in the MPC now. They managed only one three-pointer and was only 8 for 17 at the foul line during the game. Meanwhile, the Blue Devils made 7 threes and drained 15 of 18 at the foul line. In girls basketball, the Blue Devils also got a win. Greencastle Antrim beat Waynesboro 55-34. The Blue Devils jumped out to a big first quarter lead and defeated the Maidens to snap a 2-game losing streak in a mid-pen colonial game on the road Monday night. Kirsten Swain tallied 14 points on only 5 shots to lead the Blue Devils, who are now 3-4 and 1-2 in the MPC. And Meadow Gambarkurta had 13 points. The duo each hit a trio of 3-pointers in the game.
If you'd like to be featured on the Coach's Corner with Andy, email coach at 921thegoat.com. Local and live. Covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State. Powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice. Voted Best of the Tri-State 2024. Online at homerightwaynesboro.com.
Let's talk Tri-State.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice, winner in the 2024 Best of the Tri-State Awards. Today we have a full dais here, which we've never had. So we've only ever had up to 2 people. So I'm very excited to have this. And I can't think of 3 better people to have here, all representing WellSpan Chambersburg Hospital. First, we have Dr. Elmer Tang, and he is the interventional cardiologist serving Franklin County. Next up, we have Sue Rosenberry. And Sue is the director of cardiac catheterization lab and cardiovascular services with WellSpan. And finally, we have Dr. Arshad Safi. He is the interventional cardiologist serving Franklin County as well. So both Dr. Safi and Dr. Tang, identical jobs essentially. Is that what we have here? Okay, very good. Just want to get that out of here. All right. So in 2004, the Chambersburg Hospital added a new service which better cared for patients needing heart procedures. And they built and opened the brand new cardiac catheterization lab. Now we're looking at 2024 is closing out. WellSpan Chambersburg Hospital is looking back on the 20-year anniversary of the cath lab saving lives in Franklin County. Dr. Tang, I'd like to start with you if I could.
Sure.
Now you were the first doctor to get the honor of performing procedures in the cath lab at Chambersburg Hospital. Now, why has this cath lab been a benefit to the patients that it serves?
So it had actually, when it was first conceived, there was a need that was unmet in the community. Mm-hmm. So patients who came in with heart attacks or emergencies had to either get medical treatment or get transferred 40 to 60 minutes away by ambulance at that point. And that was not ideal. An emergency, you need to be treating within an hour, pretty much. Okay. So these patients were not served optimally. So they felt, obviously, that there was a need to offer the service in Chambersburg Hospital at that point. And since then, it's had far-reaching benefits to the hospital. So because we are not able to take care of these patients, they can then have other procedures done in the hospital, because if they run into trouble, we're there to kind of help the patient out if they were ever to have heart issues.
Dr. Safi, I want to ask you this. Most of us know the term cardiac, and many of us probably know the term catheterization. Put those together, and there's that function now exists at WellSpan Hospital. But could you take us through, in just layman's terms, someone has a heart attack like Dr. Tang said. What is it that a cardiac cath lab allows you to do that is so beneficial for patients who may be suffering from a heart attack, for instance?
So the cardiac catheterization lab is just a very specialized room within the hospital where we can provide procedures by accessing to the heart through a blood vessel. So usually when somebody is getting a heart attack, it usually means that they have one or more than one artery which is occluded or closed, and basically that occlusion is causing a damage to the heart muscle. So as Dr. Tang said earlier, having a service within the reach of less than 60 minutes or whatever the time frame you are, it is the best way to stop that heart attack and open up that artery. So for example, if a patient comes to Chambersburg Hospital, his EKG, his symptoms suggest that he's having an active heart attack, our team usually gets activated and our response time is supposed to be under 30 minutes. The time the patient comes to the ER to the time we have to open up the artery, the guidelines by the American College of Cardiology and American Heart Association says the sooner you open it, the better it is, but the target is less than 90 minutes. So when that patient hits the ER, we all get activated, we come to the cath lab, patient is brought up into the cath lab suite, we access the artery either through the artery in the wrist or artery through the groin, go all the way up to the heart. First step is to take the pictures and define what is the problem. And obviously, based on what we diagnose, then the next step is to open that artery with a balloon, put in a stent. And the sooner we do it, the better it is.
Do you have an idea of the percentage more likely a person is to survive said event because of the existence of this lab versus how it was before?
So there are a couple of factors which plays a role. So the sicker is the patient, the faster you can get to them, the higher likelihood of them is to make it through that significant illness. So we know with our heart attacks, not only that you have to survive, you also want to minimize the damage to the heart muscle. So the longer it takes for us to open the artery, the more damage to the heart muscle. And on the contrary, people who comes with even significant massive heart attacks, which we just had an encounter over this weekend, low blood pressure, unable to respond, in those things that every minute kind of becomes very significant. So the door to balloon time is normally supposed to be less than 90 minutes. Over the last 20 years in Franklin County and at Chambersburg Hospital, our average has been anywhere between 50 to 60 minutes. Even last year it was 56 minutes. And our goal is try to be even better than, because we know we make a lot of difference in reducing the mortality, which is the death, and also the morbidity, because we want these people to be a part of the healthy society.
Sue, it is amazing to think that, just when I think of a heart attack, I think when anyone thinks of a heart attack, it is an emergent situation. There's no other way to put it. But Dr. Safi just saying that the ideal time is the window within 90 minutes. Just me sitting here hearing that, because that speaks to our advancements in medicine, to where a person can even survive in the presence of a hospital for potentially 90 minutes while in an active heart attack is baffling to me. And I think that's amazing that exists. But now Dr. Safi saying that, because imagine just being the patient, the family, who are, our loved one is having a heart attack, and to think that we go from 90, I can't imagine waiting 5 minutes to find out what was going to happen, let alone 90 minutes, and now that's ever being shortened. So it's amazing that exists. But what other services, health services, are provided by way of having the cath lab?
The other services in the cath lab that we offer are EP studies, device implants, ICD, pacemakers. We also do ablations, TE, cardioversions. We expanded the EP services in 2016 to include to be done in the cath lab.
Oh, wonderful. Now, Sue, take us through your function as it pertains to WellSpan. I know I introduced you at the outset, but I want to double back on that if I could.
Yeah, so I started my career in WellSpan in 1989 as a licensed practical nurse, and then became a registered nurse and worked in critical care, and then transitioned to the cath lab in 2004 as a staff nurse, worked as a clinical manager, nurse manager, and now in the role of director, where I oversee the operations for cath lab and cardiology services, oversee the staff, which is about 40 different staff members for both departments.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sue, let me ask you this. Prior to joining WellSpan, Chambersburg Hospital was part of Summit Health. Now, how long was that affiliation?
We've been WellSpan for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. So prior to that, we were Chambersburg Hospital, then Summit, then joined WellSpan.
Gotcha. Dr. Tang, if you could, do you know what the area that you've serviced has been? I know that now, well, let me rephrase the question. Now that the cardiac cath lab has existed, has it broadened the service area, whereas maybe we would have had to go to a hospital outside of our immediate area, or well outside?
Yeah, so when the cath lab was opened, it was really groundbreaking in this area. Okay. So there was a time that we used to take patients as far as Hagerstown, Washington County Hospital, used to fly their patients to us before they opened their own cath lab. But these days we service a really wide area, and it includes patients who have heart attacks, for example. In Waynesboro, they get transferred to us. Fulton County Medical Center transfers their patients to us. Gettysburg sometimes transfers their patients to us, depending on the availability of the service there. So we cover a large area, and the population here, since I started, has grown every year. So it seems like we're seeing more and more patients.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, Dr. Safi, as Dr. Tang just said, our population overall is booming. And I think what happens is you have the cities become bigger and bigger and bigger, and they expand farther and farther out. But what has having this cath lab really meant to you? I'm sure you have seen patients who, do you have patients when you see them that you say, if this didn't exist, our cath lab didn't exist, they wouldn't have made it? There's no way they would have made it.
Oh, for sure.
And what does, so take us through, what does it mean to you to have this cath lab versus not? Because you've operated with both, you've operated with both sides, having it and not having it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very fulfilling experience as a provider, because you're able to make a huge difference, not only somebody's personal life, and it's also from the community point of view. So over my last 20 years here, it's like, you go through this where you even don't know who is who, but then you find out like a week later, oh, that was somebody's mom, and it was somebody's dad, or somebody's brother or sister, because the community is just like very intertwined. I mean, we have an example this weekend, very young female, under 40-year-old, comes with a massive heart attack. You know, one of her artery, which goes to the front of the heart, which is like a widowmaker, was 100% closed. She was like in cardiogenic shock. And if she would have been 10, 15 minutes late, or we would not have services here, she would not have survived.
Wow.
So I think that much of an impact. And then when you do the procedure and you talk to the family and you see the little kids and stuff, I think it's just like something which I do not think can reproduce anywhere else. And I think community is very aware of that. And I think in that context, some of the things which we always want to stress, that if you're having a chest pain or your loved one is having a chest pain, please try not drive to the hospital, call 911, because that's another thing which makes huge difference in the outcomes. Because if you're driving and you pass out, there is nobody there to help you. But if you're in an ambulance and people are there, they can certainly resuscitate you, and then our team is ready to take care of you.
And not only that, to your point though, if you would drive yourself, not only are you putting yourself at risk, but you are putting others
Absolutely.
at risk that are on the roads as well. Dr. Tang, let me ask you this, because Dr. Safi hit on this, and I'm going to go right back to this. So preventative measures, what do you say to someone that may want to know, well, what can I do or what should I not do? And I think we hear the obvious things, well, less saturated fats, things like that.
Right.
Is it really as basic as that?
So it's funny because every patient who comes in did not think that they were going to have a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that nobody really thinks that's going to happen to them. So if if I could have spoken to them a year or two before, I would have told them that if you're in a certain age group, if you have a family member who's had heart disease, who's needed a stent, needed a bypass, had a heart attack, you probably need to be checked because genetics play a big role. Everyone always says that you have to be healthy, you have to watch your diet, exercise, quit smoking. And yes, we always say that. But really, risk is a little bit more than that. You know, it's also controlling your blood pressure. It's also making sure that if you have diabetes, it's under control. If your cholesterol is elevated, that needs to be controlled. And again, if you have a family history, you are at higher risk. So those are the patients that we generally pay attention to a little bit more.
You can't outrun the genetics, as
Yes.
I've heard before, but
Can't
you
choose your
certainly,
parents.
yeah, exactly. You can't choose that, but you can choose your habits.
Yes.
Right. So, Dr. Safi, I want to end with this because we've been talking about the heart and cath lab that is available to everyone at WellSpan Health that may need it. But obviously, it's one of those things, and I always say we just got off of parade season, is what we call it around here. So we have a lot of our EMS and fire and rescue goes by, and police. And I always say when I'm making the announcements, these are the folks that we hope we never need to use them, but we're glad they're here when we need them. Same thing with the cath lab. Hope you never have to use it, but it's wonderful that it is here. But basic here, Dr. Safi, what are the signs of someone having a heart attack?
So the common signs which people look for is, number, you can have a very significant chest pain, which is right in the middle of your chest. You feel like pressure. It might radiate to your both arms or not. You might have a tingling of your fingers, maybe more on the left upper extremity. You might develop shortness of breath. In some rare cases, people pass out. There is like almost 20% of the heart attacks where you are no symptoms. These are silent heart attacks. And they tend to happen more in diabetic people because of the nerve endings damage in that population. So I think those are the things which sometimes in females, it could be a very atypical presentation. You don't get chest pain. You might have fatigue and tired and not feeling well. So I think some of the challenges which we feel and we always try to educate community is, number one, do not ignore your symptoms, especially in male population.
Right.
They're very reluctant that I don't want to see the doctor, I don't want to go, and ultimately they sit home for a day or two and then the symptoms don't go away, and by the time they come, then they are in a worse shape, and they could have a much better outcome if they would have just come right away. And same thing, I think, in women population, they always try to underscore their symptoms because they're busy with the family lives, the children, the parents, the husbands, and our education on their end is like, take care of yourself.
Yes.
If you're healthy and taken care of, you're going to be able to help your family in a much better shape than if you're not doing well and not healthy.
That's absolutely right. You're speaking my language with that, doctor. I subscribe to that when it comes to emotions, when it comes to your stress and anxiety, not taking care of yourself first, all of which can can affect this. So health-wise, we got the final word from Dr. Safi and Dr. Tang. Thank you for being here as well. But Sue, I want to talk to you just real quick at the last minute that we have here. What's the future with the cardiac and cath lab with WellSpan Health? Are there more things coming down the pike with that, or is there something else added to that supplements that as well and will be something nice ancillary to go on with that?
We are looking at some additions to the procedural rooms or updates to procedural rooms, and then looking at maybe some other potential services that we could offer as far as some renal care and things to patients.
Well, this has been wonderful. I again hope that I never have need of it, but I'm so glad that it exists. If not for me, for my family, and for our community, and all across the tri-state area. So, Dr. Tang, Sue, Dr. Safi, thank you so much for joining us today on Let's Talk Tri-State.
Thanks for having us.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.